Hi, I'm Martin Dorfling from Cataclysmic Science, and today I'm going to show you the possible geological mechanism that might have destroyed the ancient city of Atlantis. So I've always been fascinated with the legend of Atlantis, and I always wanted to go down that rabbit hole. So a couple of years ago, I finally decided to scour the internet and see what I can find. And I found this one YouTube channel called Bright Insight from Jimmy Corsetti that described the possible location at the Eye of the Sahara, which is at the Richat Structure. Let me just bring up that picture. Yes, so this is the thumbnails from his YouTube channel. And I really suggest you watch these videos to know what this conversation is all about. So if you consider that the legend of Atlantis is true, then we're gonna need to show two things. The one is we're gonna have to show a timeline in which the whole story can fit in and show that there was advanced ancient civilizations that lived during that time. And then the second thing we need to show is the geological mechanism which would be responsible for creating the geographical feature in which Atlantis is set upon, and then also a follow-on event that would be responsible for destroying it by a flood. Now, the first part of the timeline I will do in another video, a follow-up video from this one, and on this one I will only focus on the geological mechanism. Now, the geological mechanism that I'm going to propose is the hydroplate theory by Dr. Walt Brown. I also have the book here. This is the one called In the Beginning, which explains the theory in detail. So yeah, I'll explain a little bit about it. And then the pictures that I'm going to use in this presentation were all created by Brian Nichol. He actually has a fascinating YouTube channel where he created the animation of the whole hydroplate theory, explaining it in a little bit over 4 hours. So I really suggest you go check that out in detail. Before we go into the hydroplate theory, I want to show a typical figure used in studying geomorphology. So geomorphology is basically the study of how the Earth's surface changes over time. Now, I myself am a geologist, and I've studied cataclysmic events for many years. The figures show cataclysmic events happening, indicating their magnitude, which is the intensity or force on the structure or surface of the Earth, and then shows a frequency, indicating the anticipated occurrence cycles at which such events may happen. Now, to give you a glimpse, let me just make myself a bit smaller here. Now we can see the figure. In the top left corner, we've got a hydroplate event, which happens only once. Then we have, after that, we have the crust displacement event. We can have a couple of those, but they are much smaller in magnitude than the hydroplate event. Meteorite and asteroids impacts, we can have a couple of them. Technically, we can have a lot. We can't say how much we will have, but again, the evidence we have, it's way smaller, and there's a possibility for a couple of repeated cycles of them. Then volcanic activity, we can have different sizes of volcanic events, like Krakatoa, Mount St. Helens, which is way smaller. We can have many of those events. And then if you look at Atlantis, that is typically, or the way I see it, it's a very small event in magnitude, but in frequency it can happen many times. I mean, this figure have no values on it, and it's not drawn to scale. It's just a concept figure. Right, let's get to the hydroplate theory. So we all know the Earth's surface is full of all these cracks running all around us. As you can see down there in the picture, they get together, cracks intersecting there at the Pacific. Looks like it originated way top on the left hand side. Um, so to give an idea, like think about this little ping pong balls here. It's like kind of bulging on the one side and popped in on the other side, like kind of like it's exploding on the one side and imploding on the other side, the opposite side. And so here's kind of it's an exaggeration, the shape a bit of Earth, but showing where in the Atlantic, where the mid-Atlantic Ocean ridge runs, where it's kind of looking like it's popping out, and then on the opposite side at the Ring of Fire in the Pacific Ocean, like it's kind of popped inwards, bent inwards, I'd say. So the hydroplate theory states that there's a lot of water underneath the crust of the Earth, and that at one point a small crack or fracture appeared that rapidly run through the entire Earth's surface with great cataclysmic consequences. So like it rapidly tore open, squirting water from beneath the crust out onto the surface, but this would squirt high into the air, and so it would erode the continental crust rapidly, and then there would be a large pressure relief which unbalance the plates on the mantle. And you can see here in the picture there's some blue arrows and red arrows pushing up, and they're not in balance anymore. And then at the mid-oceanic ridge it pushes up there where the crack was and eroded the crust away. So the crust is also highly lubricated now and moves sideways. There's an upward pressure force, and in this figure you can just see how it kind of just like becomes bigger and bigger, and the forces at work pushing upwards, and then the continental crust moving sideways. There's a lot of water movement, flutter underneath, and the mid-oceanic rift is formed. And as these crusts slide sideways, they connect on the other side, and mountain ranges form very quickly with big impact. And we can also see tension in different directions. And okay, so sedimentary rock. Approximately 90% of the Earth's surface is covered by sedimentary rocks, which is laid down water deposit sedimentary rocks. There's some Aeolian ones, but deserts, the top surface is a lot of it is wind blown. Okay, so in this hydroplate model, underneath the crust and above the mantle, there would have been a lot of the water would be basically a supersaturated brine full of calcium carbonate, salts, silica, many other things. We look at the surface of the Earth and we see that these sedimentary layers, which contain all these supersaturated brine material also, is deposited, water deposited, all over the surface of the Earth. Okay, then I have a picture here of the Ring of Fire. I'm going to skip that for now. Mountain ranges, metamorphic materials, structural deformation. We've got evidence everywhere of, again, cataclysmic events, something big like the hydroplate event. This picture we have seen before. And then just, this shows a bit, if you look finally at the picture, there's some global mantle shift due to the magma volume, and there is a driving force possibly in the Pacific where it imploded in, but then also fractures where magma extrudes then, and building little islands throughout the Pacific, like there where East Ross Island is, places like that. Ah, so here is where the hydroplate theory gets very interesting. So it explains a lot of the other things like the limestone dilemma that we have, the magnetic reversal phenomena, Earth's radioactivity, and some of the reports of interior electrical lightning bolts. I wish everyone could understand the significance of this limestone beds. So if you look at the bottom figure, the approximate distribution of Earth's carbon, the atmosphere is about 720 by 10 to the power 15 grams, and plants and animals 2000, coal and oil 4130, the oceans 37,400, and all of them together in the top graph then 44,000, just over that, compared to the limestone beds of 60 million, which is precipitated in the limestone beds. Now, before the hydroplate event, there would have been a very high number dissolved in this supersaturated brine underneath the crust in the form of bicarbonate, which would all squirt up during the hydroplate event and precipitate these limestone beds instantaneously or very quickly. And there's big significance about that. Now, let's jump to another thing. The big roll event, the possible big roll event. Possible event, that's like a big crust displacement event that might have happened after the hydroplate theory, as a result of it, kind of part of it, after it, due to the crust being unbalanced and the motion of the Earth. There's some geophysics models about that, where the crust slides and moves its angle over a fast period of time. Whether it's like the unbalanced crust or maybe forces from underneath, and there might possibly be some evidence of something like that happening. Now, that means the geographic north might change very rapidly, but also the magnetic poles, right? So here's something to understand. Magnetic pole shift has nothing to do with magnetic reversals. I just want to, the hydroplate theory will explain where we get the idea of magnetic reversals. That has nothing to do with magnetic pole shifts. So magnetic pole shifts might have to do with interior mantle shift, some movement there. That's a possibility. But now, magnetic reversals, right? So there is no such thing as magnetic reversals. So magnetic fluctuation is explained by the hydroplate theory by, again, due to the mid-oceanic ridge buckling up, having fractures, and then having melted material, there's some lava magma down there, and as it solidifies, the material alters its magnetic properties and the intensity of those magnetic strengths. Like so, this picture here shows on the top part the red dotted line going through the graph as the average of the magnetic strength. So things above it, values above the red dotted line and values below the dotted line is not opposite. So above is not a north force and below the red line is not negative. It's not south. So this picture shows like the north-south interpretation. That's wrong. It's just the fluctuation is high or low. It's not reversed. And a lot of people, I think, understand it wrongly. They think it's reversed. They think there's reversals captured in the ocean floor. And they use that as evidence for slow ocean floor spreading over long periods of time. And that is incorrect. There's no reversals. It's only high and low. So it actually shows us a fast cataclysmic event, these magnetic fluctuations. And it's not magnetic reversals of a slow uniformitarianism event. It actually shows us, like I said, big cataclysmic event. Now, again, this has nothing to do with pole shifts, but yeah, maybe the current magnetic deviation and pole shifts are telling us that the Earth's interior is on the move, and that might cause some troubles, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation. Okay, so radioactivity in the Earth's crust. As you know, granite, a very interesting rock. They call it God's rock because we can't melt it and precipitate it back as it is into a coarse granite. It only precipitates back into rhyolite, and a couple of chemical things then change. But okay, nothing to do with the radioactivity. So Z pinch. So granite have some quartz in it, and quartz mineral is dielectric. Just do an experiment. Get 2 pieces of quartz, go stand in a dark room and hit the pieces together, and you see sparks fly and like an electric current running through the granite, through the quartz that's in the granite, if there's a lot of quartz in there. So there's the concept of Z pinch, which is a fusion reaction, and it's really explained in detail in the hydroplate videos, in the link that I will put below the videos. And you can see as the hydroplate event happens, the continental crust will flutter up and down, and now you have this quartz in there, in the granite, that really gets heat all the time. So the charge, you can see a little picture down here on the left bottom in the yellow block of the electric charge on a big scale running through the granitic rock. And there's the idea of how it causes a accelerated nuclear decay, and it also creates uranium and gold. Very technical. Too much to explain here. Really, I suggest you follow the links and go watch the entire video with a very good explanation in there. Also explain the formations of chondrules, which shoot out, and we might wrongly identify them as meteorites, which actually form also underneath the crust of the Earth during the hydroplate event. Now, we have some interesting eyewitness accounts of electric earthquakes. Let me read you some. So, some descriptions of earthquakes worldwide. People reported flames shot out of the ground, intense electrical activity, the sky was alight, ribbon-like flashes of lightning, bluish flames of fissures opened in the can't see there, anchor chain because of incandescent, globes of fire and other extraordinary light, sheets of flame on the rocks, indefinite instantaneous illumination, sparks or sprinkles of light, thin luminous stripes or streamers, fireballs, vertical columns of fire. That's just a couple of words that eyewitnesses use to describe electric earthquakes, because obviously we have quartz in the ground and it makes some big sparks, and there's a lot of interesting things that happen due to that. But yeah, that's for next topic. Let me get back to the main point about this, why we are doing this presentation. Okay. Okay, so the main purpose of this video was to establish a geological chronology for the events of Atlantis, right? So to show that the Richat structure at the Eye of the Sahara could have been Atlantis, we need to show a geological chronology and certain events that must happen first. So we have a cataclysmic event, which is described by the hydroplate theory, which shows that all the events following after that would be a sequence of events, all of them requiring the previous event to happen. So we have only one hydroplate event happening worldwide. We have a worldwide cataclysmic event. The world is flooded. A lot of things happen. After effect of that is we have possible crust displacement events. We have mountain ranges being built from the continents for the crust slamming into each other, creating continents. We have volcanic activity from that. We have rocks flung through the air, meteorites. You've got water squirting into the air at high volumes, and that causes a lot of rainfall and precipitation. There's a couple of mechanisms there that follow onto that, but so you have the hydroplate event, which causes the ring structure, this is after effects from the volcanic events, ring structures on which Atlantis is built. We've got the mountain ranges built next to it. We've got the mountains precipitated with snow. So now we still have constant crust displacement, volcanic activity, extreme weather conditions. And we're talking about, in this chronology, couple of hundreds years after the hydroplate event. We're not talking about thousands or tens of thousands of years. Literally, we're talking about just the low end of a couple of hundred years. So we have this big cataclysmic event. We've got people building, survivors of this event, of this cataclysmic event. Now these survivors building their civilization, their new city, on top of this ring structure, which is remnants already of a cataclysmic event. But we've got the setting, the whole environment is unstable still. The crust, the volcanic activities, the large amounts of snow, inland dams and lakes trapped in here, and then suddenly we still have a lot of potential energy stored, and we've got some movement. Suddenly it triggers an event, and all that water comes rushing down and destroys the city of Atlantis in a small scale cataclysmic event, as we see there at the orange arrow, compared to the cataclysmic event 100, 200, 300, 400 years before that time of Atlantis. Yeah, hope it makes sense.